So we're here with Bryan Cook, who's up for re-election in Ward 2, Cheyenne City Council. Bryan, welcome. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
For those watching the video later, I'm Bryan Martin. I'm managing editor of the Wyoming Tribune Eagle. I'm here with a couple of community reps from our editorial board.
I'm Sharon Fain of Black Hills Energy.
Bob Feck, Cheyenne Animal Shelter.
And Bryan, thanks for being here. We appreciate it. Let's start right off with what specific issues or concerns have you running for re-election this year?
First of all, thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity. I would have to say, I would really like to continue a lot of the work we've done in the last 4 years. I was fortunate enough to be elected 4 years ago in Ward 2, and I'm hoping that I'll be fortunate enough again to be elected this time around. A lot of the things that we've been able to work on and that I'm pretty proud of, they may not necessarily be sexy things per se that we've done over the last 4 years, but I would like to be able to continue working on some of the budget type issues that we've addressed, whether that being instrumental in turning the sanitation fund into an enterprise fund. I'm also very passionate about increasing the amenities that we have in our community. I have young kids. I coach baseball here in town. Youth sports, things of that nature. So I'm very cognizant of the condition and the things that we have in our community, whether that's our fields or things like that. So I want to continue to push for whether it be proposed projects like a multi-purpose gymnasium or an indoor turf facility, things of that nature. There's a lot of us that are driving down to northern Colorado all the time, spending a lot of money down there to use those types of facilities. When if we could have those here, that would be wonderful. I think that would be a great start. I would also like to continue what we've done as far as economic development. I was lucky enough to be a part of annexing more Swan Ranch into the city limits. Not long after we took office this current term. That has really increased what we're able to, industry-wise, what we're able to bring into our community. That also brings some challenges for us as far as, the more area that we annex into the community, we need to then, provide services, whether that be, now we're in the situation where we have to figure out how to fund a fire station for that area. Because being part of the city, we have to provide those types of services. We've about 2.5 years ago, I was lucky enough to be able to help support, bringing a rail spur out to Swan Ranch again, to feed more businesses and more industry to come into Cheyenne. I intend to support providing the city's, hoping that the city's share of funding for the Christensen Road overpass is placed on the 6th penny. I believe that's a big deal, as well as continuing my support of various projects downtown. Whether that be continued funding for the West Edge, which I believe is very important. I also support the current project that is in the works with the Civic Center Commons project as well. I've been very supportive of that from the get-go. I would also like to see more tangible results with the 17th Street lighting project, which we will be able to see later this summer and this fall. Finally, after 3.5, 4 years, we've really been pushing for that. I'm also, trying to work on some things as far as, safety related issues, with the parking garage and making that more of a place where people feel safe. If folks can't feel safe downtown and can't feel safe parking in the garage, they're not going to patronize those businesses. They're not going to want to support what we've got going on downtown. So those are some things that that I've been fortunate enough to be a part of that I would like to continue, as well as it's pretty exciting to have been one of the sponsors for us to adopt the downtown core plan, and I would like to continue seeing those partnerships blossom moving forward. But I think we have some really exciting things going, and I would I've been on the ground floor of a lot of those things, and I would like to continue that moving forward.
Bryan, you mentioned just a long list. One of them was annexation of Swan Ranches, and we're working on an annexation right now on the east side. Eventually, we are going to completely circle South Cheyenne sewer and water district? You think you're ever gonna get there?
Boy, I don't know. I mean, I assume you're referring to, the Sweetgrass development,
Yes.
directly south of, LCCC
Yes, sir.
and east. I mean, it's a large area.
It's
I
a
mean,
big
it's
area.
stretch, it's a big area. One of the issues with that, I'm very excited about that project, and that was something else I wanted to bring to light too, that I feel like we've accomplished, but I'll address that first. The BOPU, that's an interesting situation because, the BOPU is working on finishing the rest of that main connector line that would be able to feed that area and make our services redundant in order to feed that area. But that's going to be an interesting situation moving forward. I know they certainly want to come into the city. But I think that's going to have to be an ongoing conversation with the Southside Water and Sewer District and the BOPU, to be frank with you. If I may, I realize this is off topic, but something else I wanted to bring to light is, Mr. Feck brought up something again that I feel relatively proud of, and the fact that we've been able to, in the last 3.5, 4 years, I feel like we've done a good job of encouraging more affordable housing, whether you look at projects such as, the development, the pending development at Waterford Square, whether that's further development at Saddle Ridge, or whether that's, Thomas Heights, and there are others. There's also the pending development directly north of Walmart, the scenic development. It's been referred to for several years, but I feel like we're finally starting to make a dent with those things. I mean, I know there's other projects going on, but those are big ones with many homes that I feel we're finally sort of making a dent with trying to provide some more affordable housing. So I apologize for going off script, but I wanted to make sure to get that out there.
Bryan, what qualifications do you bring to the table that'll help you serve as a council member or continue serving?
Well, I believe, again, as I said, Sharon, I was fortunate enough 4 years ago to be elected, and I feel over the last 4 years, I believe that I've proven to do a good job and represent my constituents appropriately, and I've tried to be a very strong advocate for not only Ward 2, but the city as a whole. I mean, we talk a lot about there's blight in downtown, there's empty storefronts in downtown, and there certainly are. I can't sit here and deny that, but I also sort of look at myself as an advocate for the entire city. I mean, there are, I live on the north side of town. I mean, there are empty storefronts on Yellowstone, Del Range, Ridge Road, East Lincoln Way. So I mean, there are areas of concern around the community everywhere. I believe that my breadth of experience, currently serving as council president, prior to that having been the chairman of the Public Services Committee, and then serving on various other committees or commissions. I believe that lends itself well to continuing to be on the council. But I think really the biggest qualification is my willingness to learn. I'm not going to walk into a room. I've never walked into a room thinking I had the answer to every question. I'm willing to listen and collaborate with folks. I mean, professionally, I work in human services, and you can't do those things. You can't be successful doing that if you're not willing to collaborate with other people. And I feel like that's a skill that you have to have, whether you're on the city council, county commission, mayor, or anything like that. So I feel like those skills are things that provide me the opportunity to be the best suited to continue on.
Bryan, what do you think are the biggest challenges facing the city? What is the biggest challenge, and can you name 2 or 3 of them?
Well, I mean, obviously, the hot button topic is certainly going to be the budget, and moving forward, it's certainly hard to say how issues on the state level are going to affect us. I think, like I referred, I mean, I think we're already sort of seeing a trickle down effect of some of that, just with sustainability of some of the businesses that we've had here in town. And frankly, whether that's, big box stores closing down or whether that's, mom and pop or, small business type places. But I think, the budget is always, regardless of whether or not the economic forecast is good or poor, that's always going to be a topic that is most important, as well as I said, economic development. We have to balance that, and we have to make it to where it's, and I feel like we've made some strides as far as making it easier for infill development and for development to come into Cheyenne than it was maybe 4 years ago. Is it perfect? No. Will it ever be? Probably not. But I think that's every community I think wrestles with that. But I feel like we've made some real strides. We're very lucky, frankly, to have some of the entities that we have, working on business recruitment and doing those types of things. And I feel like we need to continue to partner with those entities and give them the ability and the resources they need to continue the work that they're doing.
Can you describe your vision for Cheyenne, and then maybe let us know too if there's some things that Cheyenne lacks that you'd like to see, and how can you help as a councilman?
Well, I think born and raised here. I've lived here my whole 41 and a half years. My wife and I have had several opportunities to leave. We've never done that. We've never even really thought seriously about it. We want to raise our kids here. We hope our kids raise their children here. If we're fortunate enough to be in that situation. But my vision, honestly, is I do like a lot of other people that have sat in this chair and will sit in this chair over the next couple of weeks. I do remember the time when downtown was more vibrant. I mean, I was much younger then. I can remember when Del Range was a dirt road. That's been a while. So I guess for me, I like some of the directions that we're going with some of the development that we've been able to have. I mean, I'm encouraged by the discussion that we're able to have, certain amenities here that we didn't have when I was a kid. Certain opportunities, we didn't have an ice and event center. We didn't have things like that, but we need to. I want to continue building those types of things, whether it's continuing to improve our parks. Again, like I said, I mean, I am really concerned about, continuing to develop the West Edge. My grandmother lived on 26th Street, just up the street. So I mean, I spent a lot of time in this area as a kid and in my teenage years and early 20s. So I mean, I want to see further development in this area. And like I said, I mean, maybe it's a little bit selfish, but being a coach, being the father of somebody that uses the soccer fields and the baseball fields and things like that, I feel like those are really things that we need to improve on, as far as, providing more opportunities for our young families, our kids, things of that nature. And really, I try to jump at the opportunity every time we have the chance to bring in more business, like I said, in Swan Ranch, or more housing, things of that nature. Those are things that I'm going to be concerned with, and those are things I'm going to jump at. I don't know if that's maybe a concrete vision, maybe what you're looking for, but I'm really motivated by those types of things. And I mean, if we can spend some money in order, like I said, to further develop, Christensen, to allow other companies to come in, to increase our portfolio, so to speak, in Cheyenne, I think those are things that we need to be supportive of.
So do you support using taxpayer dollars to do that?
I do. I would support specifically Christensen Road, for instance, is something that I would definitely consider as personally myself as a priority to put on the 6-penny ballot.
Any other 6-penny priorities for you? And what do you think about the possibility of using taxpayer dollars for the Children's Museum?
I'll address the other ones first. Again, like I said, projects that I would like to see myself personally on the ballot. I may not, I may be in the minority on a few of these things, but I do know there are private efforts going on right now to increase our recreation portfolio. I've heard of some some projects recently, regarding, maybe some indoor facilities and things of that nature. But I definitely, like I said, an indoor turf facility, a multi-purpose gymnasium would be something that I feel strongly about. Further investment in West Edge. Something else I'm proud of that I forgot to mention, but I was able to work with Mr. Roybal and Mr. Johnson to dedicate some more money to Belvoir Ranch. And that is also something I would like to see us invest additional dollars into. And whether that means just starting a few trails and getting the door open and putting in a gravel parking lot, but I think we need to move in that direction. As I stated, I would, I guess I'm recreation heavy, but I've also been a big supporter. We use the greenway a lot. And I feel like we need to finish the loop and carry on some of those projects. And frankly, I look at a lot of these things as they don't just benefit Ward 2, they benefit the entire city. People from every location can use these things. Further investment in West Edge, as I stated. And one more thing, honestly, I know there are lots of infrastructure projects that need to be done as well. I certainly don't want to ignore those things, but one project in particular that I think is really something that we need to take a look at is the Ames Avenue underpass, just not far from here. That is a real bad situation for the folks that live on the south end of that. When that's closed, when it's flooded, that's sort of their main artery, getting into downtown and getting further north. So that's definitely something that we need to look at. So like I said, I don't want to sit here and sound like I'm ignoring some of the infrastructure projects, but that one needs to be a priority as well.
So to the issue of taxpayer money for the Children's Museum, what do
I
you
was
think
not
about
ignoring you.
that?
I'm not sure it belongs on the sixth penny. I would support. I've been a strong supporter of the museum from the beginning, but I would certainly feel it's more appropriate potentially, to be petitioned and put on a ballot for a potential seventh penny. I feel like if the taxpayers want it, if the taxpayers will support it, they'll vote for it. But I definitely feel it's appropriate as far as an economic development opportunity. I think it fits what that type of a tax is intended for. But like anything else, I feel like, if the public wants it, they'll vote for it. But I think that's probably the more appropriate way to go about it.
I'm going to follow up a little bit with that, because there's a lot of discussion on both sides as to whether or not it's true economic development or can it sustain itself or not. So for the moment, just for argument's sake, let's assume that it does make the ballot, it does get approved, but it does need support, taxpayer support, city support for ongoing operations.
Well, we have some entities like that right now, where you could point to the Ice and Event Center, the Civic Center, just to name a few. But I look at it as yes. We could certainly be taking on something else that would be further taking out of the general fund to supplement. But I also look at it as the Civic Center, has it ever broken even? But the thing is that's a service that we need to have, that our citizens want that. They support it, and I believe that there are certain entities, there are certain things that we have to go in understanding that we're going to have to supplement this along the way, but it's a service that we have to be willing to provide, and we have to be willing to make that expenditure. I wrestle with that all the time. I think about your exact question all the time, but I think you sort of have to weigh, we're expected to have these certain things, so we should be willing to pay for certain services like that.
The purpose of government is to provide essential services that the community can't necessarily provide for itself. So have you defined in your own mind what you think those essential government services are?
I mean, obviously, essential services, what you're very familiar with. Public safety, I mean, certainly. I mean, that's to me, that's a no-brainer. Fire and police, specifically, also, water and trash pickup. I mean, those are the biggies. I mean, but I mean, I also look at, public works as a whole, like I said, sanitation, but also, there's been a lot of talk lately about the potholes and the condition of our infrastructure. But I also look, and, maybe it's not on the priority level as essential as maybe some of those things, but frankly, I look at a lot of some of those other amenities, such as our fields and some of those things, as being essential for our kids, for the families in our communities. I also look at services such as frankly, what you provide now. I mean, honestly, but also, when I first came out of college, I worked for Youth Alternatives. So things like that, where we're providing services for families that may not otherwise be able to pay for them, whether they're needing therapy or just, some type of support. So I mean, I think a lot of what we do is very essential to the overall health of our entire community.
Bryan, that kind of leads into the next topic, which is the budget and savings and your priorities there. What are your priorities for city spending versus savings, and can you address a little bit of the recent council action on the raises?
Yeah. I knew that was going to come up. The clock's not moving fast enough for it to come up. No, I'm glad you brought that up, and that's something I did support. I can't deny it. I did vote in favor of the wage increase, and I know in some circles that will not be a popular choice. Has not been a popular choice. I would say, are there even in better economic times, is there ever a popular time to give raises? Some folks would say you never give them. I honestly felt, Monday night when the vote was taken, that it was the right thing to do. I do realize that was taking a significant amount of funding from reserves. And what are we going to do in future years? How are we going to continue making that work? And that could certainly put us in a very tenuous situation. But I also feel that our employees are very important to what we do. No matter what division they're in, whether they're fire, police, parks, sanitation, wherever. And I mean, at the end of the day, they make us. And if this could be something to where, ultimately maybe we don't have as much turnover, because when you have a lot of turnover, then it starts costing us a lot more in the budget, because then you're looking at, then I've got to keep retraining people. I've got to keep recertifying people. So why not try to do something? I mean, 2.25% is, or 2.5% is, it's really not even a cost of living. I mean, I supported what we did the other night, but again, realizing it could make things a little tougher for us, down the road. And what message does it send? To me personally, I want to send a message of support to our employees, but also, I'm sorry,
Beyond that issue, though, Bryan, can you talk about your budget saving priorities in general? Do you think the city should be saving more? Do you think what should the city be spending its money on?
Well, I think there's a lot of ways we can save some money, but I think it's more related to, I don't feel like this is the time to add a bunch more positions. I mean, I feel like staffing levels at the current point in time are probably where they need to be. Do we certainly need to look at, maybe down the line? I mean, we could be in a situation where we might have to look at a reduction. I certainly hope not. But one of the other things, specifically that I've had conversation with, for instance, with our outgoing city engineer, is, how do we find some budget savings in planning for our infrastructure needs? A lot of talk has been made of, our infrastructure is in terrible shape, and how do we make our money stretch further? I think we need to make some very simple contract amendments and some rules changes to allow for more city inspector oversight of some of those projects. I believe that would help a lot of our fifth penny money and a lot of our budget money go a lot further. If we're able to, when a lot of these projects are built, I mean, they're intended to last us 20, 30 years. And yet, there's times that, 5 years down the road, we're having to go back and repair or completely redo things. So I mean, I think we need to, that's a change that we could make that could make that money stretch a lot farther. That's something I would like to see. I know there's also been some talk of maybe trying to see if there's some services that we provide that maybe could be privatized. I don't know if that's, I think those are things that we always need to look at. Does that mean, we completely go away from, doing certain things? I don't know, but I think those are the kinds of discussions that we need to have to save money. Do we need to, things such as, do you remain in the cemetery business? I know that's a hard discussion to have. I've brought it up and it hasn't been well received, but those are things you need to look at. Is, could this be better, be done better, by private industry? Could we then dedicate our resources to doing something else? So I think we have to have those kinds of discussions to really completely change the face of things.
One other issue I have wanted to ask you about is the anti-discrimination ordinance. Where do you stand on that? Does the city need it?
I believe we do. I was supportive of it in the beginning. Since we've begun having the discussion, I would continue my support of an ordinance, a resolution, something. I know there's been ongoing discussion of potentially a resolution in that manner, but it's frankly I would like the state to take the lead. I think that's probably the answer a lot of people have told you. But if we're in the position where we have to do something, I believe we need to do something. I've had a lot of meetings with Wyoming Quality, and frankly, I've talked to a lot of folks that are in opposition. I'm certainly open to the discussion of both sides, but it's definitely something that we need to do.
Should we do it right away or wait and see what the legislature might do?
I would like to see. Frankly, I would like to see. What the legislature is able to do. Last year was not the time for them to try to reintroduce something. It was a budget session. It just, the deck was sort of stacked against them. But I would like to see what they're able to do. And then, if it doesn't, go as far as it needs to, or if it doesn't serve that need, then I think it's, certainly, then I think, it should be up to the municipalities to fill in some of those gaps. But I want to keep working towards it, absolutely. But I also, want to make sure it's known. And I think we should take both sides of the argument into account. I think we need to, we've had healthy discussion about that, and we need to continue having that.
Bryan, some general fund money and fifth penny money goes towards through the United Way to a series of nonprofits.
Yes.
What do you think of that? Do you support that? Or?
I do. I have been, you always get contacted by some folks that feel like, anytime the infrastructure ever comes up and there's potholes and there's people have to go get a new alignment on their pickup or anything like that, there's always we shouldn't be giving that money to United Way. We should be spending on our roads. And I've probably gotten 30 phone calls like that in the last couple of months. But as I said, being someone who has a professional background in human services and knowing some of the community organizations that money goes to help, whether it's schools, whether it's you can name them. I feel it's important for us to do that. It's not a popular choice with all the voters or all the citizens, but I definitely, you know, those are organizations that we need to support and we should support them. I feel very strongly about that. I would, if I'm fortunate enough to be reelected, I'm going to continue to supporting those organizations.
Bryan, are there any other issues that we didn't cover that you'd like to address, or anything you'd like to?
I'm sure when I'm walking in my car, I'm sure I'll think of a couple things, and I'll probably kick the door of my truck, but I don't know. I mean, we covered a lot in the half hour. I'm sure there are other things that I missed, but I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak with you today. And but I'm sorry. I would like to add one more thing just to build off what Mr. Feck was saying. But I guess to me, what it comes down to as far as the support of those community organizations, we all know somebody that has benefited from those services. You know, we all know somebody that's had to use Safe House or something like that, or one of those organizations that is supported. And that's the way I look at it. But whether we've had to use those things or not, we all know somebody that does, or somebody that may. So I personally feel like it's very important that we continue having those things available in our community. I mean, not everybody is as fortunate as I am. That's sort of how I have to look at it.
Thank you, Bryan, for being here. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the time.